Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadidamastu, Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be nourished and protected, may we gain strength through knowledge, may we come to divine realizations, and may we never quarrel. Peace, peace, peace. And welcome everyone to the third lesson in this series on Ashtanga, my first series of lessons that I've done here on the channel, and I am so happy to bring you along this ride down the 8-limb path to find out what these further components, these more in-depth components of yoga might be. We know about the asana, we know about the posturing, and we even know a lot about the breath work. You may have heard the word meditation in so many different ways, but on this channel, in this 8-limb study, we're going to find out what it means to the yogi in this very sequential practice, very thought out and organized practice that is the 8-limb path, that is Ashtanga. So before I go any further, let me just give you guys that call to action. If you do find yourself enjoying this video, please go ahead and hit that like. It would help me out so much. And if you find yourself enjoying and you do want to see more of these, hit that subscribe button and little notification bell if you want to keep up to date with all the lessons as they come. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the first limb, back into the first limb. And a quick little review, right? We talked about ahimsa, that non-violence, not allowing of violence towards any innocence, and certainly not acting on any kind of violence. So this is kind of seeing the goal before we even start the practice. If we want to consider all of this as yoga, as unity, as oneness, then we should act that way, and we definitely wouldn't hurt another. We wouldn't want anyone to hurt us. It kind of brings that golden rule right to the forefront of the practice right off the bat. If you're going to attempt any kind of yogic sadhana practice, then you're going to have to stand firmly on this ahimsa, non-harming of anything. So yeah, take care of all that nature around you, take care of all the life around you, seeing that oneness in all of it, seeing the unity, seeing the yoga. The second one was satya, and that was that honesty. And I talked about more of the subtle component of that honesty, and I kind of just skirted over the more understood, right? You'd think more understood concept of satya, but did want to cover that a little bit more. There'll always be a slight and an up-tempo recap of the past video, but I'll always leave a link in the description so that you guys can just click that and head back and kind of do some catching up if you need it. But satya, other than the subtle, obviously the internal component of that practice, there is the external. There is the ways that we relay ourselves and our truths to the people around us. So satya is, in the purest context, just being able to relay what happened to another without adding your own perspective or bias through your perspective that might come with that relaying of the truth, right? What happened, the truth. There is really only one truth, and a lot of the times when what do we say? We have to hear both sides of a story, but really what happened was only one, and hearing the two sides of the story would only add to that concept that their perspective created a different reality. So in a way that does happen, right? That creates our own personal truths, but what happened in the instance, what was the pure truth of the moment, will take an unbiased perspective to relay. So being able to do that from our own standpoint is a very difficult thing to do, trying to clear our perspective as we do relay the truth of what happened. And far too often we just completely change it altogether. We could hear people say, yeah, I'm at the office, and they're maybe at a gas station pumping gas when you hear them say it, or wherever they might be, but that whoever they're talking to is kind of expecting them to be relaying the truth of where they are in that moment, and that's not the case. So satya, be honest with others, and that honesty really is a felt kind of thing. We have this divine consciousness that is so pure and true, and all of the different ancient texts, they have these guidelines to life, and they're all the same, not the same exactly, but they're all so very, very similar as far as non-violence, non-lying, and this third one, asteya, is non-stealing. So that consciousness that we have, it only allows us to know the very beginning of a pattern, right? When we first steal the first small thing, it might be a stick of gum, and the consciousness might have a little, it has something to say about it, but it was just a stick of gum. And if we allow that to be rationalized, then the stealing can become perpetuated, and that it just becomes a habit, a pattern within that person's life. So we need to really listen to that consciousness, and that's why these guidelines are necessary to really check all of us back into that dharmic, that righteous path that we should be on. So non-stealing. And remember this too, if you can't get past these first two limbs, the third limb, the one that everyone knows as yoga, the one that people consider themselves doing when they go to a studio and they do a certain class, they think that they're doing yoga because of the third limb. The third limb, moving the body, the postures, we'll get to that, and we'll get to its necessity and its utility within the 8 limbs. But remember that these first 2 limbs have to be practiced for that to be considered yoga. So if there is violence, if there is lying, if there is stealing, and obviously the rest of the yamas and niyamas as we get to them, then there can't be any yoga from those asana. Those won't be yogasana, they'll just be asana, or postures, they'll just be poses, they'll be movement. I just saw on one of the yoga sites, Yoga Journal or something like that, and everyone was sharing it around. Someone did a yoga flow before they robbed a business, and I couldn't help myself. I had to make the comment. I had to leave the message to anyone that could see it, and there were a couple other people that made similar messages, but that couldn't be yoga because of what the next action that person did, what they were planning to do, and I'm sure what they had done in the past to, have that as a part of their life. They are a thief, and that breaks one of the prerequisite limbs, prerequisite anga before you get to asana is to not be a thief. So that was just movement. She did a little sequence of postures. That's all that was. It was a little exercise, there was a little stretching, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of people consider yoga to be, even when it's perpetuated by someone with such a grand following like the Yoga Journal and these other, big names that were sharing it. And seeing it made me remember that it's not something this isn't included in a lot of the conversations about yoga. So yeah, I thought that was hilarious that was considered yoga, even though it was a thief just moving their body around on a rooftop, and they got caught by a security camera. Okay, I digress. So asteya, don't steal, don't be a thief. We have the stick of gum example. We could go all the way up to grand theft, where you're stealing cars and people's belongings out of their house. We know. All of those within the spectrum is the perpetuation of that thief mentality. But let's remove it from personal belongings, material belongings for a second, and let's think about other kinds of thieves before we move on to the fourth. Other kinds of thieves could be thieves of energy, thieves of joy, thieves of peace, people that are out there, people, even places, you could feel uneasy in a place, in certain environments or certain circumstances. There's unease, maybe 2 people arguing in front of you. All these different things could lead to our own peace, our own joys, our own calm being stolen away from us, as it were. So obviously that's up to us to protect that as well, and that's where equanimity comes into play, and that's something you'll hear me talk about a lot in this on this channel. But in the way that we don't want to become that for anyone else. We don't want to become a thief of energy, a thief of time, a thief of joy, a thief of peace. We want to be someone that can only uplift these things and infuse these things into someone's life. So we won't be stealing their material belongings, but we also won't be stealing what's far more valuable, their time, their happiness, and their joys. That's definitely not going to happen. Those things are also bound to that divine one consciousness. Those things are also felt from our gut. In our gut, we can feel, we know better. We know when we're just creating drama, we're creating stress, and we might not stop, right? That's the habits. Those are the mind's reactions, the mind's emotional reactions. Those habits can be perpetuated, so we might not stop. But deep down, we know we have this little voice that tells us, man, I really got to stop being involved in the drama or adding to the drama, stuff like that, adding to the stress or acknowledging the stress, pulling that towards me. Because that's however we pull, whatever we pull in, that's what we're going to be also exuding out to others. So we want to be pulling in peace and joy and happiness and fearlessness, and those things will be then exuded and perpetuated to those who are within our circle, within our interactions. So that is a good segue up to the fourth of the yamas, I think, and we'll just cover it very, not briefly, but there's so much to cover when it comes to this fourth one because it uses the word Brahma. So Brahmacharya is the fourth yama, and Brahmacharya, it contains within it two words. So my favorite way to approach these terms, as you might have already noticed, is to break them down as much as we can. Translate the words within the word so that we know what it's trying to portray on the purest context. And then obviously if we see other translations, other ways that the words, referenced, then we can still have our understanding as that purer way, that grounded, that foundational way, and still add to it, add a little color to it whenever we feel we've understood. So Brahmacharya. Acharya is a student and a teacher of something. Acharya is someone who has absorbed their life into a topic. Okay? Brahma is, and I've referenced it a few times today in this lesson, Brahmacharya. Brahma is that divine consciousness. It is that oneness that we are seeking, and before it becomes anything else that would ever be acknowledged on this channel, there is no division, there is no divisiveness on this channel. Whenever I mention the deities, I want them to be understood however need be, so that they can be involved in a person's life and even just contemplations. For example, Agni. If you search Agni as a deity, there will be depictions, and it might seem as though that is a god or one of many gods. But Agni means fire, and the recognition of Agni as fire can teach us that that's how we could infuse this philosophical beauty that comes from this sacred science into our lives, into our understanding, without ever going towards the thought of multiple gods. That's just silliness. There is only one true divinity, and regardless of what it's called or referred to, we're always going to be pointing towards that one. So in this way, Brahma is the oneness that is the consciousness. It is the thought. It is the all intelligence. Okay? And from that all intelligence, we have to be learning on a daily basis. So Brahmacharya is remaining a student of that divinity, and infusing it into your life so much that it becomes almost like you're a teacher at the same time. You know, when someone's studying something that they're really, really passionate about, and I just got to experience, my sister is studying to be within the seafood, the oysters, and you know, all these different things, and she couldn't wait to tell me all these different things about that world, and I'm completely ignorant to it. So I might, you know, enjoy that, just knowing about it, but I'm not as involved and kind of obsessed over it, that even though she's not a teacher of it, she's a student, she still wanted to tell me everything she's been learning. So when we involve ourselves in that divinity and we absorb our lives in that divinity, it becomes something that we do want to talk about. So as we're becoming a student of it, life leads its own lessons. Life teaches us its own lessons. It's not the teachers that we come to meet along the way. They can give us the roadmap, they can give us the groundwork, but life teaches the lessons. Whether or not we gain the lesson and carry it into our lives, that's a different story. But life is going to be a teacher, and that divine web of knowledge that gives us the lessons, that's what the fourth yama is referring to remain a student of that. So this means many different things, okay? That's the first kind of more attainable, more accessible way to look at brahmachari. But there's also the absolute extreme version, and I don't mean extreme in a bad way, but it is more, it's for the renunciant. You know, it's someone that they pull everything out of their life except for that divinity, and they devote themselves in a complete way. So they're called renunciants or sannyasis, as well as brahmachari. That's kind of an early stage of their life, is to be brahmachari in the purest ways. So it's obviously not something I can really speak on, but know that there is a spectrum to this. What we can always do is to remain our best to stay a student of life, okay? And this means also to act as a student would act, where in our youth we weren't distracted by the opposite gender and, you know, seeking those kinds of sensual pleasures. We were focused, as much as we might have been, in the schoolwork, right? We were focused on the lesson. We were focused in the class. There was a time in all of our lives where we thought, you know, the other gender was, you know, they had cooties or whatever it was, but we didn't think of them in any other way, and we could stay focused on the task at hand. So in some ways, brahmacharya also means to be a celibate, but it doesn't have to be to that extreme. It means to be very respectful of your own sexual energies, your own sensual seeking, so that it's something that's controlled. That's why these are the controls, the yamas. We have to control ourselves and our longings, our desires. So brahmacharya, remain a student, keep that student mentality. And there's a really nice way that I like to approach the yamas, and it's been easy up to now to go through them, because they are they tell you what not to do. Okay, ahimsa, non-violence. Satya, even though it means to be honest, you could think of it as non-lying. And then asteya is non-stealing. So what would brahmacharya be? Brahmacharya could be to be non-cynical, okay? To not let the life stick on us and to weigh us down and to lose the value of the glory around us and this divine wonder that we could have as we look out into the world. You know, as we're kids, we look out at the stars. What is that? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Just a state of wonder and awe of things as we come across them. So keeping that, being childlike, not childish, but childlike in our response to this world and the beauty that surrounds us every day, every morning, every minute, every breath, every step, every single opportunity we have to be in awe of the lessons we can learn from this beautiful life, that's Brahmacharya, okay? Or at least it's how I've understood it over the years, and how I find it to be most approachable in the teachings. Because, like I said, there are extremes to all of these, and the spectrum that we can fall on. Obviously, we want to find ourselves as intensely on the more intense side as we can, but some of them mean very drastic changes in our lives. Obviously not ahimsa, that's something we're not gonna, well, I like to be violent, so I guess I'll just be a little less violent. No, that one we can't really barter with. But something like Brahmacharya, if it was just to remain celibate, then you could see how the fullest practice wouldn't be attainable. And that is what we're told by Patanjali in the sutras. He says that there's going to be these ways that we can go at it. We can go at it in the mild, the medium, or the intense. And what we get out of the practice is what we put into the practice. So if you want to be a celibate, go for it. If you want to be a renunciant, I'm not going to stop you. I never would steer anyone off of the path in their most intense way. But we also have to know that this is something that was, that was found and utilized by married couples, that both the husband and the wife had become enlightened, and then they had children. So if they had become enlightened, they had children, we know that Brahmacharya still has that broader context, even at the highest standpoints. I'm going to save the last of the yamas for the next video. It is a parigraha. And with that last yama, we're going to do a very, very quick recap of the yamas, and then we're going to introduce the niyamas so that we can get into the second limb. Again, I can't thank you guys enough for watching, and if you made it this far, please, if you enjoyed it, go ahead, drop that like. It would help the channel out so much. It helps with the algorithms and keeps the videos, kind of popping up to people. And if you're not already and you'd like to see more of these, please subscribe. Same thing, it would help so, so much, and I'm eternally grateful to all of you. Let's close with mantra, and I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day. Asatoma satgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityormamritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.